Like it's just
Doesn't it?
it's just so early. It's ridiculous. Hey y'all, it's Becky here from the Beckisphere, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Becky, and every Tuesday and Thursday, unless it doesn't happen, but usually, we talk about the climate here. The problems, yes, but the solutions, yes. I was supposed to point on the second one. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, go ahead and click that subscribe button below, hit the like, comment, share, all that good stuff. And if this is your first time, congratulations, you have entered the weekly Climate Book Club live stream. If you hear a voice in the ether, that is my mom, Sandy. Say hi, Sandy.
Hello.
That was high pitch. Hello. For a sing-song. Yes, she is here so that I have a little more of a dialogue, but I still talk a lot, so it ends up being a monologue. We're working on the format. If any of you guys have suggestions on how I can better the format, let me know, because this is definitely the last book that I'm going to do quite this way, but I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to switch it. There's like this app called Stereo. Did you check it out, Mom? It kind of looks like it's kind of becoming the next big thing, at least in other countries. So that's really interesting. Yeah. But it seems pretty legit, like it's going to be a social media form, which is really, really interesting. So you need to check it out. I texted you that and you still didn't check it out. So
I know.
What am I supposed to do with a co-host like that?
I know. It's terrible.
But yeah, so that's one idea, but the format will change for the next book, which, by the way, will be Bill Gates' book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, because obviously I have to read that one next. I mean, duh. So I'm going to try to get some other people involved next time, so there's more people I'm talking to than just my mother, though I love my mother.
Yes, but
yeah, it'd be cool to have some other people that are well versed in the climate conversation to talk about some of this stuff with, because then we can go into deeper analysis. So if you have any recommendations on who I should talk to, they don't necessarily have to be a climate YouTuber, though that's definitely an option. Of course, I have to ask people, so just if you want to doesn't necessarily mean they'll want to, but if you have any suggestions, let me know. And without further ado, today we are going to talk about the next section of the book, All We Can Save, which is essays and poems written by women in the climate movement. And we are over halfway through the book. Yay. This is a thick girl, like she thick. Like this is an achievement. I feel like this is an achievement, at least for me, because I really, before I started this book club, I've definitely read more than I have read in a long time. Yeah. Like, yeah. Maybe I could have read more in college if I didn't cheat through some of the literature, but college, they just assign so much. Anyways, so we are on part 6, which is called Feel. So we're going to get into our feels. Have your beverage ready. I have a lot to connect to with this section. A lot.
It's a tough section.
It's a tough section. I loved the last part though. The last one was great, and that helped me through it. Yeah. But first we're going to start with a pretty picture from Madeline Jubilee Sato, sorry. And she has one for the beginning of each chapter. And this one says, "What is the environment except my body and your body and the breath between us?"
It's nice.
All right. So the first part is called Under the Weather. And I said I was going to make a bullet list so I get through the description of each section faster, but I didn't. So we're going to probably continue doing about what we did before, but I'm going to try to be a little shorter with my summary.
Because there's a lot of sections in this section. A lot of articles.
Yeah, there's a lot of articles in this. Well, actually, I think there's about the same amount of articles, but they're really long articles. Yeah. Gosh, I hate it. Also, if the emails stop randomly jumping in.
It does to me too when I'm in Zoom or anything.
Oh my gosh, it's so annoying. Literally, I know so many people with this issue, and it drives everyone crazy. Apple, fix your shit. Anyways, so this is called Under the Weather by Ash Sanders, and she starts by talking about her friend who was a math and psychology major at UC Davis, which is Mama's alma mater. Yay. And he was very depressed because he really didn't want to contribute to how humanity ruins everything. Which I definitely was there in college. Because it can be very much overwhelming when like you feel like you're always part of the problem. So he decided to pursue a PhD in philosophy at Kansas, trying to move around a little bit, but he still definitely had a lot of emotional breakdown. And she said that he didn't want to be any part of such destruction. And when she met Chris, she realized that she was the same way. And she kind of met him in the middle of his journey with that, and she was just starting hers. And so she then went through literally every single and like climate activism movement you could do. And she was really like doing a lot and definitely burning herself out. And she went to a therapist, and I highlighted this part, and it says, I went to a therapist who stared at me quizzically. I didn't know this word. I went to a therapist who stared at me quizzically. I was sad about what? The end of the world, I said again and again. Finally, at a loss to diagnose me with depression. That's literally my story verbatim. I was diagnosed with depression from a psychiatrist, literally because I was like, I'm worried about the world ending. And they're just like, okay, so she has unrealistic issues. Here's some drugs. Yeah. And she also talks about the Permian Extinction, which was the last mass extinction that humanity had, and it was caused by greenhouse gases as well, but it was due to a natural phenomenon, not one species. And it also took a lot longer to do. Like it was a lot faster. It was a lot slower than what we are causing the climate to go through now. Yeah. And so it wasn't as deadly, therefore, because animals could adjust a little more, though it was still a mass extinction, but I'm saying that we're worse. And it took Earth between 8 and 9 million years to recover, which is more than what Wall-E suggested. And now, for the first time in hundreds of millions of years, we are seeing the trajectory of the Permian levels of carbon in the atmosphere. Woo. And she talks about the choice between caring for yourself versus caring for the world. Yeah. And I feel like that feels often like a trade-off that we have to make, that we're always trying to figure out. Yeah. And she talks about a report that says that climate change is causing a mental health crisis, and that 200 million Americans will suffer from mental illness as a result of natural disasters, droughts, heat waves, and economic downturn. So even if it's not the same thing that causes anxiety that I have, which would definitely be defined as pre-traumatic stress, which we'll get more into later. I love that term. That's very accurate. Yeah. They're going to get PTSD from actual events that happen, you know. According to a 2017 report by the American Psychological Association and Eco-America, acknowledging the reality of climate change and its consequences can trigger chronic fear, fatalism, anger, and exhaustion, a condition that psychologists are increasingly referring to as ecoanxiety. Yep.
And it's not just in America.
No, it's not just in America.
It's in Australia. It's in India.
Yeah, in India, more than 10,000 farmers killed themselves in 2018 alone due to rising temperatures changing the agricultural systems. Yeah. And we're seeing that with the farmers' protests there too. Yeah. And she said, which I found interesting, that the solution is to restore your sense of control by reconnecting yourself with nature. Which
well, as we go on to the next articles and stuff, They have other solutions. Like one of the other ladies is going to say,
it's just interesting that
and do something.
Yeah, but it's just interesting how that is an idea of a solution because, I mean, as we talk about later, someone talks about how relaxing it is to be on a beach and stuff. And I told Mom recently, I was like, the ocean used to be my happy place, but now that there's so many problems that I can think of that the ocean's going through, it's no longer my happy place because whenever I see it, it reminds me. And so being out in nature for me isn't always the most relaxing because I think of all the bad things that happen with it, but it depends on the place. That's why I like a field meadows or a meadow that still works for me for some reason. Yeah. Anyways, I was a marine biology major, so I knew more about the ocean. So, we are sick because our society is sick. Shouldn't society be treated alongside the patient? I like that because that's true. By just treating individuals, we're not really solving the problem. And she talks about climate grief. If climate sickness exists in an overlap of psychological and emotional, we need words for those, a dictionary of sorts that allows us to see patterns in experiences of individual people. Yes. And she talks about solastalgia, which is a mix between abandonment and loneliness and nostalgia, which is a weird combo. But basically, it's the idea that I don't know where the definition is.
It's kind of above. It seems people losing not just their homes, but their home, their sense of belonging to a place. So that's what they're losing. And that's causing that sort of nostalgia, but it's beyond nostalgia. So because solos means abandonment and loneliness. And that's part of what they were talking about in Upper Hunter Valley in Australia, because the mining people came in and they started bulldozing homes. And everybody was starting to feel like their home had been inexorably changed. And so they were missing home because it was really no longer the same.
So it was the feeling of being displaced, basically. Slow violence is again another term I've heard for that.
That's a good one.
Slow violence, because it's basically, that is more of a description in an environmental racist and environmental justice lens. That's basically the same thing, but in that lens, basically. So it's just that instead of it being something quick, like a riot or something, or a insurrection or something, just immediately destroying things. Slow violence is where a environment is, or where a group of people are just being slowly displaced from where they stand, due to like environmental factors and like pollution, all that kind of stuff. So their homes are being slowly ruined, and it's something that's not as obviously thought about, but it's something that is definitely still violent for the community. So it's slow violence. So then we get to pre-traumatic stress disorder. Right, that's where you're at too,
by
right?
Psychiatrist Van Susteren.
Yes, and Lise Van Susteren. That's the most German name I've ever heard. And basically, it's like post-traumatic stress, except the trauma that you're imagining hasn't happened yet. So it's almost like the anticipation of what you know is to come is causing you anxiety. It's almost like a phobia in a way, because phobia is when people are worried about something happening, to some extent.
Or
something. Or being afraid of the dark, like you're afraid of the dark because of something. So it's not quite the same, but it's like maybe phobia is like present tense and this is pretense. It's past tense, right? I don't know. But so it's basically pre-traumatic stress disorder in the context of climate change is that we're getting so much anxiety and
she says stress, insomnia, intrusive thoughts, all that kind of stuff
because of climate change, even though like the worst hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
She said, I was grieving for the future in the present. And since there were so few people who wanted to talk about it, I was grieving it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And they also talk about the Cassandra Dilemma, which is a Greek tragedy where this woman, Cassandra, is blessed with knowledge of the future, but then she's also cursed with not having anyone believe her.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very much connected to how environmentalists feel,
mm-hmm.
having all this knowledge, but no one's listening. Yeah. So that's why, and that's also why I love the name Cassandra, because it just kind of
mm-hmm.
makes me feel like how I've felt. I don't know. And then she also talks about how the environmental movement is kind of struggling with its messaging, which we had already heard about a bit before in previous sections. But basically, we've tried for the longest time to appeal to the public with facts and strong language and big terms and stuff. And now we're realizing that actually a better method of engaging people is through emotion and emphasizing that. So we're learning. Mm-hmm. And I think this book is an excellent example of trying to approach it through emotion mm-hmm. in general, because it's, again, essays and poems, so it's more personalized. It's not articles like the authors are in it, Yeah. Yes, and then they had gone and talked with people to try to find more words, because now they're adding words for what they call the Anthropocene, which is basically the term and of the era that we're in now, or the epoch that we're in now, that is where humans have changed so much. So, yeah.
And this is the Bureau of Linguistic Reality in San Francisco in 2018. Mm-hmm. Is where they started at the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts and trying to create new vocabulary.
Yeah, because words forge the way we see the world.
Yeah.
Which is why some cultures can't see the color blue. Fun fact. Is it blue or pink? Pink. They can't see pink because they just think of it as shades of red. So they can't differentiate pink from other reds.
Interesting.
Because there's no word for it. That was a fun little podcast episode. I have no idea where it was from, but it was great. Yeah, so then she goes back to her friend Chris, and she talks about how Chris is basically living in a cute little house with a wife and kids and has a green lawn, and he tries not to stress about it as much. He's still doing a heck of a lot, and he still feels like he's not doing enough. So he's still very much in the environmental movement, but he's stopped being nihilist about it, or not nihilist, I guess, but kind of like stop being fatalistic about it. And he says that people still call him like a major pessimist. Oh my, the natural human condition is to distrust. Average people are swayed to distrust by the people we distrust, those who profit from keeping things how they are today. Just trust all the way down. Very true, Scott. Very, very true. And it is hard. It's hard to beat through that when it requires people to change. They don't want to change. Yeah. And her friend Chris, he basically was like still considered a pessimist. And what I like is that he's like, well, a guy, it's not the guy who says we're fine that changes the boat's course off like the Niagara Falls. It's the guy who says we're all going to die, which I loved because, yeah, to some extent, even though research tends to favor optimists, because it's weird because it is like a better way to reach people is by not being completely like doomsday. But the other way to think about it is just being realistic. There's a part in between. You don't have to be Pollyanna or Cassandra. You can be realistic.
Yeah. What she says here is research favors the optimists, I had to admit. Most humans respond better to manageable, hopeful amounts of information tied to concrete, doable actions. But I wondered if, in the end, what is important isn't choosing optimism or pessimism, but honesty with oneself.
And honestly, we're all gonna die.
No,
No, I'm kidding.
We still have ideas.
Yeah, we still have some tools in our pocket, which we'll get more to later.
Yes.
And and the last thing I'm going to say for this section is maybe we need a word for the difficult truth. That when the world's ending, our health depends on closing ourselves off to awareness of this fact. Where you choose to draw your boundaries is arbitrary, not rational. If you draw them wide, if you include trees and refugees and animals and whole nations, you will be sick from overwhelm and will be seen as crazy. But if you draw them more narrowly, you'll suppress more and admire yourself less, which is sort of its own sickness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, every time period does have its problems, it's true. But I will say ours is pretty damn bad at the moment. There's a lot of things that have worked together to, I mean, they didn't have climate change before. They had other things, but.
Well, honestly, World War II, I mean, we were on the brink of some really bad stuff there.
Yeah,
too.
That's true.
But this is pretty bad too.
I was going to say, we still have threats of nukes on top of all this.
Let's keep going. Because,
okay.
So there's some very hard articles here, but there are the last couple.
Hi, Shauna.
The last couple end on more of an upbeat.
Yeah. Well, last one, honestly.
Well, I think I liked the second to last, but let's keep going.
Okay. Quote from Audre Lorde. Our feelings are the most genuine paths to knowledge. Okay, the next section is called Mothering in the Age of Extinction by Amy Westerbelt. And
I loved this article.
Yeah, this was a good one. I'm not going to spoil it too much for you guys because obviously you're reading this, right? Still highly recommend. Again, if you want an emotional tickle, this is a good one. That was a weird saying I just said. Anyways, so this is basically talking about being a mom during this, which is another video I want to do. I don't have a kid. I have a cat. But as a woman who wants to have kids, this is a very scary world to bring up kids in the way of just what's coming in the future. Yeah, hopefully later. We're going to die later. That'd be great. Sorry, Scott says, we're all going to die someday, hopefully later than sooner. We fight not for ourselves, but also for all who come after, so they may stand on our shoulders rather than live under our feet.
That's right.
Beautiful. Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like, this is stressful as hell, but it's cool that there's communities like our little community that we're building and others that we can commiserate together.
And talk about solutions.
But also recognize that it is anxiety inducing and it's valid that we're feeling that way.
Yes.
Because even just 10 years ago, feeling this way about this situation seemed completely irrational. Even though the science supported it, which is quite a dichotomy. But we're definitely more of a community together. And one version of the community is community mothering.
Yes.
Mothering is where I thrive, which is my friends hate, but it could be useful.
Well, she talks about all the different, especially in the Black community, women are often the mothers of the community.
Yeah.
And they pull people together and they get things done. And it's kind of a nice way to go.
Yeah, they're the ones that hold the police accountable and make sure that the infrastructure is up to par, because they're looking out for their kids. They're like, hey, you need to up your standards.
And she says it's been completely underutilized in climate.
Yeah, definitely. Though I will say recently there was a group called Science Moms, who's run by one of the other women in this book. I can't remember what her name is, but Science Moms, if any of y'all are moms or have moms, that's an interesting group to look at because they're moms that are fighting for climate solutions.
Yeah.
So it's a cool organization, and there's a couple others like that. But yeah, she was talking about, so she has kids. She has 2 kids, I think.
Yeah.
And a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. So they're pretty young. And she, you know, talks with women that decide not to have kids because of climate change, and women who are also moms and sometimes regret having kids because they have to think about climate change. Yes. And then she talks about the importance, though, of mothers and their ability to move movements, because they can really be the backbone of strong movements, and how they're underutilized right now. And I like this. We talk about the youth climate activists, but we rarely hear from the parents who are enabling and inspiring their activism, fueled by their own desperation to protect their kids from the worst case scenario. Yeah. That's true. I didn't think about Greta's mom very much. Have you thought about Greta's mom much? What's her name?
I don't know, but she sure is helping her daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. Mothers are a wasted resource. Sorry, she cussed in a later part, and I highlighted that one cuss word.
I loved that.
I loved that.
She's talking about the CEO of, which company was it? Exxon. Then Exxon CEO Lee Raymond, in a speech that he gave in 1996, which isn't that long ago.
Yeah.
About how it wasn't that bad of a deal, and we should just kind of remain calm and things would get better. And then she said a very bad word.
She said, that motherfucker.
Yeah. And she said that the speeches infuriate her. Yeah,
the speeches and memos infuriate me. And she said that fossil fuel execs are like those shitty parents who always choose their own convenience and then expect everyone else to accommodate their asshole kid.
Yes, there were some bad words.
I love that description, though. Yes. They should be totally described as more, because I bet they are in many facets of their lives.
Yes. She says they have to balance the present and the future, themselves and everyone else, in daily decisions too. And they choose short-term gain for themselves every day. And then they tell us that we need to make more responsible consumption decisions.
Yep.
So, yeah, she's got an opinion.
Every day I have to choose between what's best for my own kids, probably more undistracted time with their mother, and what's best for everyone else's kids, doing everything I can to ensure a livable planet.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, we need more moms in the movement. Thanks, Mom.
And more community mothering. Bringing communities together, and it doesn't have to be moms that do it. Dads could bring communities together too.
Yeah. But keeping the house in order.
Yes.
Yeah. Which means, again, we need more community. I missed my town meeting.
Oh.
I completely forgot about it. I thought about it today. My town was having an annual meeting, and they were talking about like our watershed and stuff, and I was going to go, and virtually go, and I missed it. I need to see if there's a recording somewhere, because I'm very angry with myself. It's really hard to start being part of your community when you just are out of practice with it. Like, I never grew up going to town halls or anything like that. Most kids don't, you know, and it's not as common of a thing anymore. And boy, town halls used to be so much more interesting, I'm sure, with so many more interesting people going. Just look at like Gilmore Girls or something. They have very interesting town halls. Very interesting town halls.
Moving on.
Okay, next one's a poem. It's a beautiful poem. And it's called Anthropocene Pastoral by Catherine Pierce. In the beginning, the ending was beautiful. Early spring everywhere, the trees furred pink and white, lawns the sharp green that meant new. The sky so blue it looked manufactured. Robins. We'd heard the cherry blossoms wouldn't bloom this year, but what was one epic blooming when even the desert was an explosion of verbena. When bobcats slinked through primroses, when coyotes slept deep in orange poppies. One New Year's Day, we woke to daffodils, wisteria, onion grass wafting through the open windows. Near the end, we were eyeletted, we were cottoned, we were sun-dressed and barefoot. At least it's starting gentle, we said. An absurd comfort, we knew, a placebo. but we weren't built like that. But we were built like that. Built to say, at least, built to reach for the heat of skin on skin, even when we were already hot. Built to love the purpling desert in the twilight. Built to marvel over the pink bursting dogwoods. To hold tight to every pleasure, even as we were rocked together towards the graying. Even as we held together, warmth to warmth, and said, sorry, I'm so sorry, while petals sifted softly to the ground all around us.
You'd be so sad.
Yeah, it's a good descriptor, though.
Mm.
Shauna says, my town had a meeting, and then they talked about the curb for like an hour. I almost died of boredom.
That does happen.
Yeah, okay, that's also town meetings. Thank you for that dose of reality. I was starting to epitomize town meetings. That's the most... Gosh. You got to bring popcorn. you got to start a drinking game every time someone mentions it. Malena Emin, a Swedish opera singer and mother of Greta Thunberg.
A Swedish opera singer?
I guess so.
Wow.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. Okay, someone on it. If not, I'll work on it eventually. But I want a book of just mothers of the climate movement.
Oh, that'd be nice.
That would be cool. Maybe kind of like a photographed book. You know, they need to have like some sort of mood lighting, some sort of like picture of them, right? And then like a description or like something they're saying. Let's get on it. Okay. I need to write my ideas down. Okay. The next is called Loving a Vanishing World by Emily N. Johnston. And I loved that last poem, by the way, because it's very true. It's very true. We're built on at least.
Yes, at least because we're trying to look good.
Yeah, and we think it's beautiful, even though an area is flowering that used to never flower before.
Maybe that's our adaptive minds.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Not quite.
Kind of. It's half adaptive, half denial.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay. Loving a Vanishing World by Emily Johnson. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Emily. This was not one of my favorite pieces. Okay. Just because one, it went on a long time. There was a lot to it. And also I thought it was kind of contradictory to some other thoughts in the chapter. Because there's parts where she talks about like how even if you don't feel like it, you should do it anyways. You know, like even if you don't, we'll get into it. Okay. So first of all, less fun factoid because climate change, I'm sorry, it's not a fun fact, but phytoplankton levels have fallen rapidly since 1950, and phytoplankton is not only the base of the marine food chain, but it also produces half of the world's oxygen. That's concerning.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. I don't know how I didn't know that, but I did know that. Like, maybe I knew the amount that it was dying, but I didn't think about it as the oxygen part.
Yeah.
Scott says town hall meetings are mundane, attending to the littlest things to keep communities running. I'd go into the psychology, but it's less interesting than the town meetings. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Drinking game, that's all I'm saying. Every time that one guy speaks. Yeah. Right. Losing oxygen. Yes. So
she says we are walking into great darkness.
Yeah.
So she's a little on the dark side.
Yeah, she's exactly. I feel like, okay, I think the reason why I wasn't a fan of this piece is maybe it's helpful for people who aren't already in the loud popcorn. Yes. Pop it in the middle of the meeting. Forget to turn the mic off. Anyways. Okay, we need to stop. This is going to be bad. So No, town hall meetings are good. You shouldn't disrupt them. Okay. So basically, yeah, the reason why I wasn't a fan of this piece is because I'm already someone who's prone to always think I'm never doing enough.
Mm-hmm.
And
and she's saying just
yeah, even though you don't feel like it, even on days like endangered species don't care. You know, like communities who are on the front lines of climate disaster, they don't care how you're feeling, do it anyways. Mm-hmm. Like that's the impression I got a lot from this piece. And so maybe it's good to hear for people who aren't already in the mindset of I feel like I'm never doing enough. But to be honest, if they're reading to this point in the book, they probably are those people, and in which case it might literally undo the things that the last two sections were trying to avoid. So that's why I wasn't a fan of this piece, and I didn't highlight very much because of it. But on the parts that I did highlight, and read it for yourself. I'm sorry, Emily, read it for yourself. See if you agree with me. But that's the impression I got. But she said, the constant question for me every time I'm entranced by the beauty of the world. What does it mean to love this place? What does it mean to love anyone or anything in the world whose vanishing is accelerating, perhaps beyond our capacity to save things that we love most? One part I did like is she said that we are right now the most powerful people who have ever lived. Mm-hmm. Because we are in such a precipice that we can exact real change.
Yes, we're at an ecological tipping point.
Yeah. And she's said many sentiments that we've already heard.
Yeah.
She said even if 10% of this country, this is on page 260, Mom. Even if 10% of the country started engaging deeply, even just for one day a week, our possibilities will be entirely different from what they are now. Because our existing ecosystem, the one that's hurtling us towards disaster, depends entirely upon our disengagement with one another. It depends on our belief that we can't really have an impact on what we care about, that we should instead simply focus on our own personal fulfillment. A thing that isn't even possible in the absence of deep engagement with the natural world as well as with one another. So I liked that part too. I had a question on one of them. Is there any other parts, since I'm skipping this one pretty fast, any other parts that you liked that I didn't mention?
Actually, this one was interesting. We can't undo what we've done simply by being nice and earth-friendly people, not even by dying. There's too much we need to heal, and we have to change the path that we're on. We have beautiful work to do before we die. I just thought that was
a good one too.
A good one.
Yeah, especially for people
because if people are so depressed that they think that dying would benefit the planet.
Yeah,
she's saying, you know what? There's work we have to do.
That's true. I do appreciate that part because I've been there and it's a good place. Yeah, so you don't want to get that far. One part that I didn't understand is this sentence. Practical what you can do about climate change articles are important, but if we can't metabolize new ideas about hope and meaning, then lists of ways to engage will fail radically short when we're grieving. And we'll lose our chance to find or make possibly within that grief.
Possibility within that grief.
I don't understand how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it like, I don't know. I'm just confused about that because she was talking about before how, like, it doesn't matter about your feelings. Like, you should do it anyways. So how do you...
But here she's saying practical lists about what you could do about climate change fall short.
Yeah.
When you're grieving.
But I thought one of the solutions is just do it.
Yeah.
So that's why I was confused. I was like, then how if you're... I don't know. Hello. Elon Musk recently launched a $100 million CO2 removal prize. Hopefully something fruitful will come out of this that on this tipping point.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, boy, carbon capturing is a whole nother technology topic. I like carbon capturing. It's definitely necessary. Yeah.
I'm excited about it because
yeah.
I do think that is a way that we can
Yeah.
slow things down and
Yeah. But yeah. Anyways, I love carbon capturing, but there's more that needs to be done than carbon capturing.
Sentence there is
don't get too excited. That's what I'm saying.
We can get to the beautiful work of making space for a decent future. So she's trying to be hopeful, and she's trying to say we can't save everything, but we can do a little bit, and we can save some things, which is the name of the book, really. All we can save.
All we can save. It's true.
Know? I mean, it does kind of get into that.
Yeah. When you get into the depths of all the biosphere impacts from warming and human overconsumption, this book feels optimistic. Sorry, that was sadly sad words than worse than really sad. Wait, I need to reread that. I'm so sorry. My brain died in the middle of that. I'm so sorry. When you get into the depths of all the biosphere impacts of warming and human overconsumption, this book feels optimistic. Sorry, that was sadly sad, worse than really sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, I keep hoping that with technology, with smart people, with good community work, we've reached a peak of consumerism and pollution, and we're going to start the other side.
I'm
again a lot of people who care
coming out of this pandemic. The pandemic is awful, but it gives us a really good opportunity when we're building back, not just the technology infrastructure side, but also how we interact with each other. We're coming out of this with us being all isolated for over a year. What if that spurs communication that wouldn't have usually happened? We don't take communication for granted anymore like we used to.
Yeah.
So that's another hope that I have, is that maybe this will spur a need for community because we've lost it for so long.
Yeah.
And that will help a lot of community movement. So try to manifest that with me, okay? And while we think about this, we're on to another poem, and I love this poem too. This was one of the first pieces that we read in this book.
Oh.
It was one of the pieces I read to you when we were first looking to see if we'll cover this book.
It is so pretty.
Yeah, I love this book. And I love this poem. Okay, it's called Being Human. How do you pronounce her first name? Naima?
Sure.
Naima? It's like Naomi, Pennyman? But it's not. Yeah.
Naima Pennyman?
Naima Pennyman.
Let's go with that.
We are more impactful than some of the past causes of mass extinction. 10 kilometer comet. Pah, humans say, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah, we're a powerful species.
Yes.
Very powerful. All right, here we go. Being human. I wonder if the sun debates dawn. Some mornings not wanting to rise out of bed from under the down feather horizon. If the sky grows tired of being everywhere at once, adapting to the mood swings of the weather. If clouds drift off, trying to hold themselves together, make deals with gravity to loiter a little longer. I wonder if rain is scared of falling, if it has trouble letting go. If snowflakes get sick of being perfect all the time, each one trying to be one of a kind. I wonder if stars wish upon themselves before they die, if they need to teach their young how to shine. I wonder if shadows long to just for once feel the sun, if they get lost in the shuffle, not knowing where they're from. I wonder if sunrise and sunset respect each other, even though they've never met. If volcanoes get stressed, if storms have regrets, if compost believes in life after death. I wonder if breath ever thinks of suicide, if wind just wants to sit still sometimes and watch the world pass by. If smoke was born, knowing how to rise, if rainbows get shy backstage, not sure if their colors match right. I wonder if lightning sets an alarm clock to know when to crack, if rivers ever stop and think of turning back, if streams meet the wrong sea and their whole lives run off track. I wonder if the snow wants to be black. if the soil thinks she's too dark, if butterflies want to cover up their marks, if rocks are self-conscious of their weight, if mountains are insecure of their strength. I wonder if waves get discouraged crawling up the sand only to be pulled back again where they began. If land feels stepped upon, if sand feels insignificant, if trees need to question their levers to know where they stand, if branches waver at the crossroads, unsure of which way to grow, if the leaves understand they're replaceable and still dance when the wind blows. I wonder where the moon goes when she is hiding. I want to find her there and watch the ocean spin from a distance, listen to her, stir in her sleep. Effort gives way to existence. That's one of my favorite. That is my favorite moment. It's so good.
It is beautiful.
Your favorite part is if Compost believes in life after death.
I loved that.
I remember, I know this is from the first because it's in pencil, and I said this. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's my favorite too. If Compost believes in life after death. That's the best.
So funny.
Yeah, this was just a really well put together poem. Like you can tell she really thought about this one for a long time because this, like every word, that's the epitome of poem is when every single word has a purpose. Yeah, you know. All right, now we are on to The Adaptive Mind by Suzanne Moser. Moser. Yes. Sorry, Suzanne. Okay.
And this is a good article because it talks about how our minds what skills and strengths our minds need to learn in order to deal with climate change and the anxiety from it.
Yeah. Scott, do you want me to read your things out loud? Because you've got things to say, and I'm happy to read them out loud. I just don't know if you want me to. How you can bring joy to better climate choices sells less than 100 ways to stop humanity descent into global catastrophe. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna read yours, Scott, because you say cool things. But it also depresses us into fatalism. Mm-hmm. Yeah, both are necessary. One is action, and the other's like mental training, I guess, and yes, sadly sad was a sad attempt of saying really, really, really sad, depressingly sad. Yeah, that's what, for some reason, that one tripped me up. I don't know why. Like, sadly sad, do they even each other out? Like, is it two negatives make a positive? I don't know. Okay, thank you for the clarification, Scott. Yeah, so she's one of the people I want to interview really bad. I'm just going to, add a little highlight. Oh, I haven't been highlighting recently. So I'm highlighting the people that I especially want to make sure I interview. And she is one of them. And there's also others that I need to look at. And I need to actually email these people. Bug me, please. I need to email these people. I want to interview them for this channel. I just haven't. And I need to.
So what did you like about hers?
I mean, okay, it's me. I'm a science brain. I thought the psychology of it was just really interesting. Yeah. So that's why I want to interview her, because she's just like, she seems to be on one of the people in the front lines of looking at this from a psychological perspective. Yeah. And so I'm just really interested in talking with her about it. Mm-hmm.
And here's what she studies on page 271. What do the people working on climate change need in order to keep showing up for the long and psychologically taxing journey ahead? So that's what she studies. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And she said that she goes to local meetings hosted by members of the Extinction Rebellion and Climate Action Now. And basically they're just meetings where people, and she says they're mostly women from 20-something to 70-something, and they just share their concerns and fears and anxieties around climate change, which I think is great. I want to host one. That sounds dope. Just everybody talk about their feels. You want to just talk about your feels on here? Like, I'm down. We can just talk about our feels. It's okay. because we're all in this together. I'm here with you guys. I just want you to know I'm here with you guys. We're all learning together. And that's why I'm making this community, because we need to talk, we need to talk more. Okay. So yeah. So she says that they often end up talking about not just climate change work, but also culture change work, which is a really interesting distinction. And again, oh, they're gone. I heard scratches on the door. They're gone. They're over it. But yeah, and that's a distinction that we've heard time and time again in this book, which is that we can't address just this problem as if it isn't connected to a lot of the other problems that we're facing in society. Yeah. Tangent. The infrastructure bill.
Yes.
It will be a video talking about Biden's infrastructure bill, because I gotta talk about it.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things is that, just talking about something like bringing back up public transit, not only does it talk about it from a climate change perspective, because my brain gets stuck on just talking about it from a climate change perspective, because that's my beat, but also just thinking about how many people maybe just didn't have cars and couldn't go to jobs, and all those issues, and thinking about it as bridging the equality of people being able to move around. And I didn't really think about it like that, but that's another example of how a solution that is definitely like a climate change solution is definitely also a justice solution.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So
that's good.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting.
You have a comment.
I do. Education is so important when it comes to climate change, just with other things like crime and health. Absolutely. I'm going to talk about education, I believe, on the 20th. So stay tuned. Yeah, I want to go into education, or talk about what is going on in the U.S. system for climate change education. If it's a requirement at all to talk about it in the public schools, because I literally don't know. So yeah, I doubt it. Maybe since some states.
We're in a federal system, so each state runs its own school stuff, right? Okay, you're going to tell us about later. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So she talks about adaptive minds, which are basically comprises a set of comprises, right? Okay. Adaptive mind comprises a set of propensities, capacities, and skills that allow an individual embedded in a social network and institution, as we all are, to respond with agility, creativity, resolve, and resilience to the kinds of stressful changes as described above. So changes such as relocation, traumatic change, which is through catastrophic events, and ongoing accelerating change, such as changes in the seasonal cycles and long-term stability.
Yep.
And she said that she did a project in 2017 called The Adaptive Mind, which is, I would definitely be interested in looking up.
Yeah.
And basically she talks about how she looked at a group of people with a bunch of different disciplines and areas of practice, to see what they naturally do is learnable and what of it is just innate, basically. Is that about right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And she also talked about how people within the climate movement, from those that she surveyed, 4 out of 5 of them feel burnt out.
Yeah, they're carrying a lot of weight.
I'm not surprised at all. I am one of the 4. But it's okay, because I'm just numb, so I just keep going. Yeah, no, I'm not burnt. It depends on the day. Anyways, burnt out people are less effective people. Burnt out people can become sick people. Burnt out people leave their jobs and are replaced by less experienced people. Burnt out people aren't equipped to serve a burning planet. Straight up. So I'm not burnt out. I swear I'm fine. And whenever I'm not fine, I can get help. It's okay. Just like we all can. But so she talks about climate grief, ecoanxiety and pre-traumatic stress disorder. Yes, mother?
So when I was thinking about burnt out people and the fact that we need high caliber leaders who have enlightened self-interest, and my mind immediately went to Gina McCarthy.
She's dope, and she's definitely not burnt out.
Well, it's interesting, though, because she worked really hard to put in a bunch of legislation and stuff that was then all rolled back, right? You know, that would be like overwhelming and stuff. But she worked for what, the Environment Defense Fund or something? Instead, she worked for another organization.
Was it the Environmental
Was it that one,
Fund?
or was it one other one? Anyway,
I thought it was the RNTC, Research Defense Council.
Okay. And then she came back, and now she's working again. So she's pushing through.
I want to know what she's got.
I know, right?
She's just very, very energetic.
I don't know, but she's pushing.
Go. I appreciate it.
So anyway, that was what came to mind when I was reading that about.
Absolutely.
Someone who is a pusher.
And who did I hear from today? Gretchen? No. The person who's leading now Department of Energy. I can't remember her name. Somebody help me. Help!
Quick, look it up.
But I heard her talking today about offshore wind and stuff, and she was just so excited.
Good.
Because we have 5 offshore wind, turbines at all.
At least we have 5.
Right. Two swipes around with one offshore wind can power a home for a whole day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh
no. I'll suck the air out of the room. If you want to read them, then do. Folks here will see and interact if so moved. Share your context and just whatevs. But this is your stage. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Scott. Yeah. No,
that's so cool.
Yeah. I have a good group.
Yeah.
Good people. Yeah, no, she was super energetic. I feel like her first name is Gretchen for some reason, but she's super energetic, and she also made me very hopeful too. She's another badass.
Good.
We got some badass women going right now, and I'm very excited about it.
Yay.
Yeah. Okay, so she talks about all these things, and there's an emerging recognition of the emotional labor done by those expected to be unemotional and objective, namely climate scientists. That's another thing. I've heard about climate-induced anxiety from a lot of people, but I haven't really heard many climate scientists in the conversation, and I would like them to be more open if they're feeling that way, so that they know they're not alone. Because I think a lot of climate scientists, they're original people that are yelling at the rooftops.
They're on the front lines.
They're on the front lines.
The data.
Exactly. So
I don't know. Are they
supported? I feel like they're repressing it. Probably. It sounds like a sciencey thing to do.
People.
Exactly. Okay. So caring for ourselves. So she made a list. We're going to go through the list. Let's see if you check it off. Okay. No, you're not crazy. You're human.
Yay.
Take care of yourself. Take a break and enjoy the simple pleasures. My simple pleasure is my cat, Rue. Do what brings you immediate joy, like playing with Rue. Yeah, so, that's another thing that contradicted from the last piece, is she's like, why would you bother doing yoga when you can just, be going and doing, one of the things she's like, you could be doing this instead of watching TV, doing yoga, that kind of thing. And then this, she's like,
do yoga.
Have a solo dance party. Maintain healthy routines. Do some mental hygiene. Focus your attention on selected things, not everything. That one I starred. So that one I especially try to do. When people ask me about other things in the news that are related to literally things that anything that doesn't immediately have to do with climate change much, I don't know. I don't know. I watch the news proficiently, and I still have no idea what's going on in certain other topics because I can't. I can't worry about other ways that humans are going to screw shit up. I can't. Even within environmental movements, when it comes to overfishing, for example. I can't worry about overfishing too much.
There are
because it's just too much. Other people can focus on that.
Other people will focus on it.
Exactly. So I've kind of narrowed it down. Enhance your emotional coping capability. Get in touch with where you're feeling things in your body. Allow yourself alone and with a safe setting to name and express your feelings. Learn to witness your emotions up and downs. Reconnect with your kindness and compassion. Know how many have similar experiences and you're not alone. Yeah. So being honest with yourself. That's what I'm worried about climate scientists. I'm like, are they suppressing it?
I don't know.
Because they're going to explode. So yeah. And I think she says, she describes it later as bring back femininity in all of us, because women have been, more accepted in expressing those emotions than men. It's in this part of here.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. And so that's So especially guys, we've taught guys through society to not show this emotion. Show it. We're so over the hypermasculinity. No, just do what you want to do. Do what feels good. Nourish yourself spiritually. Seek out social support. So again, have people around you to support you. Get professional support, therapy if you need it. Absolutely. Help change institutional cultures. So make it also just more okay to have times where you foster self-care and community care. Yeah. So those are the pieces of advice that she gave.
I'm going to mention one under the do some mental hygiene. She says balance action with reflection to notice what is working and not working. Maintain a focus on progress, milestones, and positive changes. Cultivate grounded hope. So I just thought that was really very instructive.
And that goes again with adapting mind.
Yeah.
No, you have to constantly analyze the situation, and that's what I do for this channel too. Mindfulness meditation is my mental hygiene. I need to go back to it.
Good.
Yeah. I need to go back to it. It was for a bit, but I lost the habit. My dad does it too. It's really good.
Yes.
Mom's is Pilates.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's always good to have that. But
actually Dad's doing yoga now.
Oh, he's doing yoga now?
Yes.
Oh. He's always doing something.
Yeah.
But adapting mind in my mind is constantly switching up like how you're doing things if something's not working. And that's what I'm doing with this channel.
Yes.
We will switch stuff up. Okay.
So she says dealing with the causes and impacts of climate change is work for the long haul.
So you have to be prepared. Bring water. It's like you're preparing for a hike. Oh, I do need water. Yes, or other things now. Well-being of our hearts and souls must be reestablished to their rightful place as relevant and essential. She sounds like a psychologist, but still, it's very important. We've kind of lost that a bit. We need to bring it back. And finally, if there's Fridays for future, why not have some days for sanity? I think it should be Sundays. Sundays for sanity.
Yeah.
Because Mondays is work.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. Okay. Last piece. We are making it, guys. It is the last piece, right? Yes. Okay, cool. So this one's hilarious and it was a beautiful way to end it. It's just funny to me. Yes. It's called Home is Always Worth It by Mary Annise Hagler. So she goes to school, she gets a degree in English, and she either goes into publishing or journalism. So she kind of is a combination of both.
You have to read the first sentence.
Okay. I washed up on the streets of New York City in 2006, fresh out of college, and my Southern roots fresh on my voice.
I like that. I washed up on the streets of New York City.
Yep. And so she was in a publishing company by day and a local lefty newspaper by night, which sounds so cool, honestly. And she constantly came across these weird phenomena. They were called doomer dudes. And I've met so many of them, which is why I find this so great. There was one in our Like,
oh yeah,
long time ago.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's a popular trend. It's very common in white men. And so it's basically they decided to do a section in their newspaper on global warming, which was still relatively new of an idea. Damn it, my email. I hate this. If anyone knows how to stop the email from jerking in during your conversation, that'd be great. Was this twice? Go away. Okay, sorry guys. All right, so 3 times, that's just mean.
That means it's gonna be 4, right?
Stop. Okay, we're good. Okay. So yeah.
So doomer dude.
Chuck's like, did you say your dad's doing yoga?
Yes.
My favorite cousin I used to babysit. Oh, Chuck.
Yes.
Uncle Chuck.
I found some great pictures of you lately.
Yes. We have more to send you. Okay. So yes, the doomer dudes. So commonly middle-aged white men. That's usually the vibe. So,
yes. And no disrespect to
no disrespect to any of y'all, but it is a phenomenon. It's like a Karen, you know. It's a type. And so they were going to do a whole section on global warming for their news Independent, the Independent, but it's spelled independent. Super great. Are you trying to figure that out? Yeah. So basically, tall white men with remarkable sunburns and disheveled hair and cargo pants. They're usually a little messy. They tower over me with their tall tales of woe. Quote, there's really no point anymore. Humans are done for. Their voices swell with glee. Perhaps they saw the horror in my face. One of them hovered down to my eye level and offered, as if it were a consolation. Oh, don't worry. The Earth will be fine. She just needs to get rid of us. And she said, I'd been in New York almost a year by this point, but I was still too young and too Southern to know my way out of this mansplaining vortex. I nodded and smiled, then cried all the way home.
Oh.
Sorry. I've been there before. It's great. Yeah, you get some of them in the environmental movements and stuff, and they're thinking they're being realistic, but really they're just like pissing like everyone off just for a joke, you know. Oh man, but I love the way she described that. I'm too young and too Southern to know my way out of this mansplaining vortex. Yoga, Alabama says that's bad. Cow worship and all that. Oh my gosh, Scott!
I didn't know that. I'll have to look that up.
Oh geez. Okay.
It's that down dog position or something, right? Downward dog.
Downward dog. Is that cow worshiping now?
I guess
so. Okay. So then she says that she joined the climate justice movement in earnest in 2014. Since then, I've come across good many doomer dudes. They have books. They host panels. They are prolific tweeters. They are Legion. Sorry. They're almost always white men because only white men can afford to be lazy enough to quit on themselves.
That's just.
I'm sorry, you guys. You guys know it's not you. Obviously,
Her dad's a white man.
Yeah, I know a white man. Therefore, but I've definitely seen these guys. You know, it's a lot of guys my age too. It's a lot of millennials. They're so fatalistic that they're just done. They're beyond numb and humorous about it.
So that's the point, though, right? Is that they have decided that the Earth is
just
dying.
Fucked. We're done. We don't have to worry about it. We're just done.
Yeah. And there's no use in trying to fight against it. The end is in sight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad.
She calls them denialists, which is like nihilism, but with a D, because they're so into it that they're almost denialists.
So what do we do about this?
This sort of okay. And then she talks about how the environmental movement is kind of the opposite, where they're almost too optimistic, and they try really hard not to scare people away. And she says this sort of tone policing makes the climate conversation impossible to have any real honesty. So that's not good either. You don't want both Pollyanna and Cassandra in the room.
Okay.
Yeah. She says both are mansplaining paradises. So both of them both smack of the privilege wrought from the deluded belief that this world has ever been perfect, and that therefore an imperfect version of it is not worth saving or fighting for. Yeah, that's the catcher. Scott, the world is still beautiful in the wild, in the joy of playing among animals, in the whirl of the hummingbird. It's okay to be sad, but drink in life where it is found and feed your hope. Recharge. Exactly. No, true. And that is why.
And that's the last section.
That's why nature's good. Okay. Oh, aha! The next one.
Scott,
a wonderful, imperfect world. What a transition. She says, we can be messy, imperfect, contradictory, broken. And that's okay. We can learn the difference between hopelessness and hope and helplessness. Because if we've been doing because what if we've been doing the equation backwards? What if hope isn't what leads to action? What if courage leads to action and hope is what comes next? Yes. I like that.
I like that too.
And she says, even if I can only save a sliver of what is precious to me, that will be my sliver and I will cherish it. If I can salvage just one blade of grass, I will do it. I will make a world out of it. I will live in it and for it. I love that.
And that's like all we can save.
That's all we can save. We will save all we can save.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is the end of the section. Only took an hour and 11 minutes.
We made it through the feelings.
We made it through the feelings. How are you guys doing? Have we survived? Scott, you there?
We're on to nourish.
Okay, so nourish. Here's the pretty picture. Let me show you. Little buds. Little baby seedlings. We will work together to restore what is broken. We will slowly make all things new. Scott says, "Egad, yay!" All right, and then let me read you the little piece of the descriptor for nourish for a better example, so we can get excited about nourish. Okay. Soil, food, water, sky. Inseparable, the foundations of our aliveness, collaborating with and supporting nature, microbes, farmers, photosynthesis. So it will probably be a combination of nourishing ourselves and nourishing us via food and nourishing the planet and soil.
Look, Becky, there's a section on solutions at sea. See?
Mom has donated a lot of money to seaweed growth. I say donated because she bought the products, but they're sitting there. We haven't figured out. They're in the freezer. We haven't quite figured out what we're doing with them, but she bought them because she wants to support the seaweed industry.
Yeah. Come on.
In my future book where I write about what the future will look like with climate, they'll be eating seaweed
and the cows will too.
But there won't be as much eating meat.
Right, but the cows will eat seaweed, and so they will be burping less methane. It's wonderful.
Yes.
It's a beautiful future.
Yes. A beautiful world.
Close this out.
Okay. Scott says the pictures are harder to see in the audiobook. I squint, but it's not there. Oh. If you go to my Instagram, I don't know if this is allowed, but I take a picture of the picture every day that we are doing this book club, so you can see the picture on my Instagram if you have one, because they haven't complained so far, and I've credited the illustrator every time.
Nice.
So that's good. The first one they actually commented on, and they're like, "Oh yay, you're reading it," but they haven't responded since, so I'm guessing it's okay. But anyways, so yeah, they have good illustrations, and they're kind of poems within themselves in a way. So many things to do with seaweed. Yeah, there's so many things to do with seaweed, dude. Like
and urchins too now.
And urchins. And we're gonna probably eat more bugs. And
I don't want to eat bugs. I'd rather eat urchins.
a lot of people say that about seaweed.
Okay.
Fun fact, seaweed's in your toothpaste and your ice cream and basically everything. You just don't realize it. I tell that to kids at the aquarium. I'm like, it's in your ice cream. Will you still eat the ice cream? Because if I say the toothpaste, then they'll just stop brushing their teeth. So I can't say the toothpaste one. Scott says, to be fair, the audiobook has a PDF companion. I'm just lazy. Oh, Scott. Okay, so tomorrow probably, if not the next day, sometime soon, I'm going to have the climate recap come out. Yay! So climate recap for March is on its way. And then next week, we are going to talk about natural gas. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Remember to talk about the climate every single day and to support your local news organizations. Burped right there, sorry.